Nisha's blackened lips. Polio has seized my body. I move through a crowded street. Eyes shun me and legs run to hide. The street holds me in dust as I wait for the rush to die. My arms work like legs, bearing the muscles of a warrior, deftly walking me down the streets. Hands are deformed. They are not the hands of a woman or a beast. Loneliness grips at the heart. It is sore from being clawed. The sun has bled heat over me, blackening my lips. This unwashed face wears only tears. Salt burns my weathered skin, blisters open like sad eyes and weep. They weep for my dead family and for me. What are my hopes today? A piece of chapati or a bowl of rice? 3 years before the rains fell hard, we tried to save our homes, but the wetness would not drain away. We gathered diseases from stagnant pools of water. Bodies sunk into the surging deep. We could not help but trample over love as we needed to drink the rain. Rain carried away the charpoy my child slept in. His father left the next morning with a fever, in search of his small son. I watched him from a neighbour's rooftop, flailing in the torrent. I never saw him again. I rest on precarious stone steps bound to a board. Rags hold my snake-like skin. The grimy tarlatan folds I wear are of no comfort to a woman. I would love some oil to loosen the leathery hold, and a silk sari where the walk and scent of a woman flourishes. I used to stand naked in the deep of the night with jasmine oil coating the air, imagining my husband's silhouette under moonlight. We moved as one. It was the only way to feel him long after he had gone to work in the city. Sometimes I didn't see him for days, but even then I felt like a woman. He always whispered, "I love all your sacred jewels." I am still a woman who feels like a woman and endures pain like a woman. I have given birth to life, bearing those scars of a woman. I used to have rosebud lips, but the sun entered them and robbed the beauty. A man passed me this morning, shouting, "Swamp monster, get out the way!" He spat on the ground. By accident, my right palm trod in his slimy anger. I prayed, "Moon, paint a light coffin over a grassy plain. I will gladly crawl into it. Please darken the night. Let the stars dim under a sable veil so I can melt the earth to feel full again. Open the earth's heart so the tears of a weeping soul can seep into the soil and blossom like a lotus in a dream." I have started to practice jnana yoga. Jnana yoga in Sanskrit means knowledge. It allows me to see outside this world, to delight and be glad in the self. In this state, I am free, no longer a prisoner of a putrid body, crippled by paralysis. This is only a temporal state. A bruised fruit lies on a step. I roll it over an aged cheek while whispering a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So, in the light of an awakening day, I will always be seen as a woman in the essence of the earth, and I will pretend my blackened lips are rosebuds to exorcise the darkness to light. For the love of money. It wasn't much, but it was home. For days, we, the tenants, and members of our community, like Mrs. Wrench, a primary teacher, Mr. Lowry, the street baker, Mr. Hall, the preacher, and others, stood silent with linked arms. We thought this was an impenetrable formation around our crumbling 3-story home of 16 leaking, mouldy apartments. The enormous crane, with its pear-shaped wrecking ball and steel chain, threatened at a short distance away. Redneck city developers urged, menaced, and called the police, who made on-the-spot arrests. At the time, 2 single women held their illegitimate toddlers in their arms. Tardy welfare workers came in, took the kids and packed them like suitcases in the back of a rusty grey Volvo. They were just doing their job, but aren't carers meant to care, to feel and empathise with the poor circumstances the deprived experienced? Instead, irritation crumpled their faces as mothers struggled in vain to hold tight to their babes. Our protest fizzed out to the sound of gushing water from hoses that sprayed our bodies with the ripping power of talons. Tenants took to flight, running to their cold water flats to take as many belongings as possible. Elderly Mr. Lennox strapped a tired-looking mattress on his hunched back. He set off to hobble the length of the street to the corner where his childhood friend, Mrs. Blake, waited. Mrs. Blake, a widow and now homeless, had set up camp with a pitcher of lemonade. The childhood friends grew up here and wanted to live out their last days in the area, even if that meant living on the street amid the waste and rats. From my flat, I came out tearful and lost a shoe down the stairwell. I watched the shoe fumble the concrete on its descent. Out on the curb, mean machines with stony faces wore shiny badges, uniforms, and holstered pistols. Into the city grey the new homeless walked, along the streets where pimps and prostitutes called out from flashy convertibles, trying to entice the young to pay a coin for a ride to an unknown destination. Corrupt taxi men and fossil-like oldies were also on the move, or should I write prowl, in souped-up automobiles. They acted like treacle wouldn't ooze from their lips while asking, "Are you lost? Need a lift home? Looks like I'm going in your direction." Libby, a young mother who loved to party, arrived home to find no home. Dressed in club clothes, she sat in her red leather Mini on a patch of dry earth. Her mother left earlier in the morning with her grandson to the other side of town. Tear-stained, Libby stretched out, looked skyward, and mouthed words lighter than whispers. I took Libby's hand and hauled her to her feet. As we walked, fancy cars and taxis tooted horns, and randy old men tried to disguise their intentions with polite renditions of 1950s talk. We dragged our feet. They hurt while walking the hill. Atop the hillock, we witnessed the final swing of the crane steel ball and the handshakes between city developers, police, and wealthy city folk. Above them in a cab, hundreds of feet above the worksite, the crane's cab operator did a thumbs-up sign. He was ablaze with the satisfaction of wreaking havoc. For adoption, we are too old, but not old for the filth and swank of the city's keen-eye sex predators. These low-life hustlers saw an expanding capital before their red-streaked eyes. Vigilant, we trekked, ignoring the low calls from lanky shadows in dingy corners. On the following scorching day, we continued to walk, huddled together, down a never-ending road.